So the Victoria's Secret fashion show was last night in New York City. And if you grew up in like the 2000s or the 2010s like us, you'll remember just how iconic and kind of glamorous this show was. There's these huge glowing models walking down in angel wings wearing like $1 million bras across these huge runways. And I remember like as a kid just like looking up like how to look like a Victoria's Secret angel.
Oh my God, that just reminded, I still use Charlotte Tilbury foundation because she did all the angels for the show.
No, they were really influential for us.
Yeah, no, it would be unheard of to not be following all of them on Instagram, like Adriana Lima, Alessandra Ambrosio, Candace Swanepoel, and that was obviously a more recent wave, like Tyra Banks and Gisele Bündchen were more of the originals. And it was like being inducted into the sisterhood was the biggest catapult for a modeling career.
But the brand itself has a funny origin story. So it was founded in 1977 by this guy who went lingerie shopping for his wife. And apparently it was just a terrible experience. He was at a department store and the service was unpleasant and the lingerie was ugly or really expensive. So he wanted to make a brand that made lingerie fun and affordable and accessible. And it's called Victoria's Secret in reference to Queen Victoria and like Victorian style lingerie. And the secret is what's hidden underneath her clothes.
But then starting in 1995, the VS fashion show became a huge part of the brand. 10 million people watched every year. It took place around the world and it really showcased designers because they designed these gorgeous, creative, colorful wings and bra designs and everything. But then in 2019, it was just suddenly canceled.
Right. So for one, the brand just felt super behind the times. Like all the models were like size 0 and most of them were white. And so the show went from 10 million viewers to 3 million in 2018. It was like a huge drop.
Yeah, this was when brands like Aerie by American Eagle or Savage x Fenty by Rihanna were really popular. And Savage even did like a similar fashion show, but they had models of all different shapes, sizes, colors. Like it was just way more inclusive. And at this time too, a well-known plus size model actually launched a petition to boycott the Victoria's Secret fashion show until they had body diversity and inclusion.
So that was already a lot for Victoria's Secret to deal with because it as a brand just was always pushing to be light and sexy and fun. But all of a sudden, it got really wrapped up in a lot of heavy controversy. And a lot of it centered around the CMO, Ed Rasick, who was the most powerful guy at Victoria's Secret. He was like in control of a lot of what the show did. And their downfall kind of started when Rasick had that infamous Vogue interview, remember that, in 2018, where he was slamming the need for diversity in the shows.
And then a lot more came out about Ed Rasick, who reportedly touched an angel's crotch, asked models to sit on his lap, yelled at models for eating certain foods, would ask models for their numbers at castings when they're just wearing lingerie, and he attempted to kiss some of them. And a model who had walked in the show 4 years in a row said that after she rejected Rasick's advances, she was fired.
And as if all of this wasn't bad enough, the worst possible thing happened that could like ever happen to a brand. It became associated with Jeffrey Epstein. There's reports of Les Wexner, who's the owner of Victoria's Secret, giving Epstein money. Apparently he gave him his $51 million Upper East Side townhouse and a Boeing 727. Yikes. And Epstein's relationship with Victoria's Secret was so intertwined that apparently he lied to aspiring models saying that he worked for the brand and would help them land gigs. And according to court filings, he even invited 2 women to auditions that ended up in assault.
Oh my God. So there was really nothing else for them to do except a major overhaul, and that's what they did. Ed Rasick left the company and VS announced there would be no more angels. They started having more body inclusivity in their photo shoots and campaigns. And then last year, they brought the show back. It featured plus-size models and trans models.
But it's interesting because it's the show's second year back after its hiatus, and we're seeing some familiar branding like creeping back in. So there's a lot of campaigns that have to do with angel wings, and we're seeing so many of the models from back in the day, like Adriana Lima, Gigi Hadid, Lily Aldridge that walked in it last night, are again the faces of the show. So even if you have more diversity, it begs the question of how much has the brand changed?
Well, to really investigate that, we are speaking to the model that we referenced who launched the petition against Victoria's Secret for more body inclusivity. And it's actually credited with helping bring the show down in 2019. Her name is Robyn Lawley, and she's an Australian model. She's 6'3".
So cool.
Crazy. And she was actually the first plus-size Sports Illustrated swimsuit model ever. And she's been on the cover of Vogue Italia, French Elle and Marie Claire, and Cosmo Australia.
Okay, so Robyn, you filed a petition urging Victoria's Secret to incorporate more diversity in its models. So can you just help us set the scene of the culture at Victoria's Secret and around the show, and what just influenced this petition for you?
Yeah, well, personally, I knew a lot of models that were doing this show every year and having to starve themselves for this Victoria's Secret fashion show. And every year, I thought maybe this year would be the year that they would use a curvy girl, and every year they wouldn't. And then Savage Fenty had an amazing show and then just sent down like what I dreamed Victoria's Secret could be. So me and the Third Love lingerie company got together with I Support Girls, a charity, to kind of urge them to use diversity. I'm proud I stood up and said something because it was, it's really hard to say anything as a model because you really, anything you say has a rebound effect on your own career. But I've casted with Victoria's Secret, years prior with their catalog. So that's why I thought they were maybe itching to use a curvy girl. But every time Ed Razek would open his mouth, he always had something derogatory to say about a woman's body that was anything bigger than a size, 4. He always rejected the use of anyone bigger than like Adriana Lima was the maximum, or Tyra Banks. You know what I mean? That was the maximum size they would use.
And so since the show was canceled for a few years, it has now come back. Last year was the first year, and it is different. Have they changed enough, or do you think they still have more work to do?
I think they've definitely done a 180, to be honest, because I wanted them to do that in, 2018. They've actually employed one of the CEOs from Savage Fenty to be the new CEO of Victoria's Secret. So they've followed my idea, like use diversity, use what your customers are, because when I go into Victoria's Secret, I see a really wide range of women. I see tall, short, curvy, not curvy. I see all ethnicities. I see all ages. So I don't see the problem in using that in your fashion shows, especially because you have a really profound effect on young girls. Like it really affected me as a teenager growing up. And I'm sure other girls my age were really affected as well.
And have you personally returned to shopping at Victoria's Secret?
I just wanted to go see the curvy mannequins, and I saw lots of curvy models on the advertisement. I saw the bigger mannequins, and it was such a happy moment.
Why do you think it took Victoria's Secret so long to finally get there when you're seeing all of these other brands do that?
Money, honey. I think it took a lot of money to be lost. I think their shares went from $76 down to like $17. The buyers ended up showing up. You are the buyer. You don't have to stand by that. And if you go into that store and you feel uncomfortable, then don't buy it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
It didn't make me feel good, those runways. I can't be Adriana Lima. I can't be Giselle Bundchen, the most beautiful women in the world. Why can't we have as well a different ethnicity and a different curve?
And it's so great to see this progress. But we know, especially when you were beginning, there was so much toxicity in the modeling industry and so much pressure to look a certain way. Can you tell us about what it was like on the inside?
Plus models, we were laughed at, to be honest. Like we were a joke back then. The thought of a Victoria's Secret ever including a curve model was just not even a thought, So it was really toxic back then. And I think it's had such a shift because the reality is they finally woke up to plus size not being just a size, 12. That's actually more an average size of a woman. So I think they just woke up to needing to feature women of all sizes and ages for that matter. Like the age, now that I'm an older woman myself, I start to realize that the age is very important to feature age diversity. And I love seeing that now in runways too. So it is changing.
Yeah.
I don't want to see a 19-year-old in lingerie when I'm buying lingerie. I want to see a 36-year-old woman that has curves that represents my body. I don't understand why it's taken them so long. It went to a really toxic level when we had certain people in power really promoting certain body types. And that body type is very little girl-like almost. And I think we've needed to add just diversity because it's lingerie.
Yeah, it's like a product that you're selling to women, but they kind of made it seem like the entire brand needed to be for the male gaze. So there seemed to be this like disconnect between the models on the runway versus real women who are trying to buy bras, basically.
Exactly. And in those stores, I don't really see many men.
Right.
So you were the first plus size model, if we're correct, to be in Sports Illustrated swimsuit. And you said that working with them actually helped you find love and confidence in your body. Can you tell us about that experience?
Yeah, I wasn't really expecting that shoot to be like that. I was really, 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 really nervous for this experience. I can't tell you how nervous I was.
Yeah.
I was actually pregnant too at the time,
How?
secretly. So
Whoa.
it was a very, very nervous-wracking. And they'd never featured anyone over any bigger size. You know, Kate Upton was the biggest they had gone. It was a very nerve-wracking experience, but I loved it because the women on set are very uplifting and they really know how to cheer a girl on. I remember showing up and being worried about my stretch marks. Oh no, don't even worry about that. It made me feel really happy. And some of those photos are still today some of my favorite, shot by James McCary, and they're just so beautiful. I love it. At Yosemite.
That's amazing. A lot of our audience watching is going to be women our age who have seen these images their whole life growing up with the Victoria's Secret fashion show, how it was. Any advice for loving your body, no matter what it looks like?
My advice is definitely get your health in order. In that health, you will find the love for your body because you realize it is such a temple. And I love doing yoga. I think yoga is probably the most profound thing I have now. I went down a rabbit hole just yesterday of Caniswanapole. You know, that can happen to anyone. So don't feel so bad. And I always try to, how I talk to myself now is how I would talk to my daughter.
And just to kind of wrap up, do you have a message to girls who want to get into the modeling industry?
A girl just asked me the other day about this, and you know, you find your place. I think there's a place for everybody. I think definitely now more than ever, you own the space. There's social media. Like you completely, it's a different world. There's no longer you have to apply for an agency and the agency has to approve you. You don't have to do that anymore. So it's kind of awesome. There's a whole different genre of models coming out that have just done their own thing and they look awesome and are awesome.